Episode 2 of the Audi A8 issues, progress, repairs. So this time let's try to cut to the chase a bit quicker. So basically what I've done so far is, so first of all I've gotten the throttle body out. Yeah, you barely can see, but yeah, it's out, and did take off the cover to the brain of the car. So this is the ECU. What is interesting, what I found is that it looks like it has a sticker on it, which a little Googling discovered that this is a German tuning company that I don't know, I guess they chip and do chip tuning to Audi cars and such, German cars in general. But yeah, seems that they have done something with this one, and yeah, so I'm basically trying to figure out, as far as I can tell, as already mentioned, there are issues with the throttle body, the mass airflow sensor, and a bunch of things. So judging by the codes at least, so I did some digging, and so what I discovered was that the cabling for the MAF, as you can see, this has been fixed before, or something has been done here. And so essentially we have 5 cables that come in here, which is correct as far as I could find. So in here we have a signal to the brain, that should be the first one. So it's actually numbered like so. Okay, so the number 1 should be signal to the brain. The second one should be I think plus 12 volts to the MAF. Number 3 should be negative or ground. Number 4 should be plus 5 volts, and number 5 is actually I think number 5 is the signal to the ECU, and number 1 I think is the sensor reading out. And so basically what my first attempt will be is I will check the number 3, 2 and 4, so to make sure that we're getting voltage into it and everything is good on that side. Then number 1 I will test to make sure that I'm getting a signal out of it, and this I can check in the program VCDS. I'll show you how that looks like, but yeah, so anyway, that I can test with the technology. And then number 5, this can be tested as well, but you have to sort of use wires to extend these. So number 1, 2, 3 and 4 into the sensor, and then you can run a loop from a ground to this one, I believe. I have to check, but yeah, you should be getting a no more than 1 volt reading to this, I think. So yeah, so basically if it's anything above that, that means that the sensor itself is probably dead or malfunctioning or something. Yeah, so this will be the first step, and try to test it out and see what is happening here, and then we can move on to other things. I did also take the throttle body apart. There are, well, if you've never seen a throttle body or how it works, so that's the butterfly valve, and in here we have, well, it's originally there's a there is toothed wheels inside, like so. So I marked it off to make sure I have it in the correct positioning afterwards. Yeah, so these wheels, basically there's an electric motor here which turns the toothed wheels, and there are some sort of sensors like brushes that are connected to this thing, so it kind of reads the position, I guess. Yeah, but it's pretty simple in terms of how it works. So I figured I'd take it apart just to see how it operates, and if there's anything clearly wrong with it that I could see. So basically, if you remove these two torque screws, you can pull the heart of the motor out, and you'll see windings and stuff. Pretty simple. Basically, it's just sitting here inside this shell. So yeah, it looked like there were some minor electrical, sort of like, not like burnt, but like some dusty, like dust that has been burnt a bit, but that could be normal, not sure. Yeah, I don't know how exactly I could test it. I'm assuming if I put like voltage onto the terminals, it should run, but I don't want to go kind of randomly onto it, because I don't know, I might, you know, break it if it's actually working. So I'll figure something out with this afterwards. And basically, I think after I've tested the MAF electricals, if that is good, or if I discover something, I'll know if maybe this could be sort of a reason for the issue, or it could be that it's just sort of, it's misbehaving because the MAF is not working properly. Yeah, so anyway, that is what we're up to, and so the next step would be to check the idle air situation. Okay, so step one, the MAF is plugged in. It is actually plugged in, the rubber boot is just loose. Yeah, so this is plugged in, the battery is connected, and so we're gonna try and squeeze ourselves in here. So my garage is a bit tight, but we can figure this out. Alright, so here we go. So what I have here is a VCDS, which is a VACCOM or VACCOM, however you want to call it. It's an older release, but it works well with Audis and older ones especially. And so I have, you can probably not see that, but I have the cable plugged into the car, and so we're gonna try and see, do a scan and see what the status of various things are. I gotta admit, I'm not very used to using this. I'm not exactly sure what should I do to read that specific signal from the MAF. So yeah, I gotta do some googling and learn how to use the program, which is useful, I guess. I do know how to get the codes out, so that's the easy part. But what I did do while I was trying to figure it out, I did actually plug in the voltmeter, which is there. And so what's interesting is, so as I said, the plugs here, so the connection, so number 2 should be 5 volts, 3 ground, and 4 12 volts. And interestingly enough, I was able to get the ground and the number 2 5 volts, but the number 4 12 volts in is actually dead. It's not giving me anything. So I'm assuming this is why the issue with the MAF is coming up, and which could also be why all of the other issues are sort of happening. So yeah, I have to take this apart and figure out where all the cables go. And also the interesting fix, come on, focus, you bastard. Right, so yeah, it doesn't want to focus right now. So there's a black cable that has 2 wires coming out of it. Looks to be original, I think. One of them is the one that goes into plus 5 volts, and the other one, which is cut off, this is actually a ground, and it works. It does have actual ground in it, so not sure what the deal is with that. So yeah, I gotta take all of it apart, start tracing, and figure out what's wrong. So it does seem like the at least as far as I was able to learn, the whole cable loom, all of these cables go into the brain of the car. Okay, so after digging around a bit, I've spent quite a lot of time going through the internet, and I found, after a lot of searching, I eventually found a schematic for the S8 of the same model of this car. And so what I found was that also what I said earlier was a bit wrong. So the plug number, well, actually the pin number 2 is the 12 volts, and number 4 is 5 volts. And so testing those, I did find out that number 2 is not giving me 12 volts of electrinos as I would expect. And the schematic actually says that the wire, which is red and white, this is actually, at least according to the S8, it should be going to the vacuum, I don't know, solenoid or something. It does also have the same green and white stripe wire, and there's a few more bits and pieces that that are sort of connected to various things, like this one here, also green and white. Not sure if you can see that. But yeah, so there's a few other items, components that sort of run on the same circuit, and this all eventually leads down to the brain box. And if I can find it here so that you can actually see as well. So this is the brain, and the bigger plug has the green and white wire right here. So this is the main signal wire that sort of, I guess, sends power to various things. It's actually going straight to, I'm not now 100% sure what it was, but I think it was the same vacuum solenoid thing, boost controller, or not sure, but it doesn't matter. So anyway, it goes to that, and it's all connected in series with other parts. And also, funnily enough, the strange thing that's going on here with this, it actually seems that this one is supposed to be blind, sort of a blind negative. I'm not sure why, but it's supposed to be like that. It goes to another component, which is a name I don't remember, but basically it's just sort of sitting there. I'm not sure why. Probably maybe this is sort of like a loom designed for multiple different engines and configurations, and so this would probably be sort of used in a different engine configuration for something, but it's not required here. So it does seem like most of what's here is actually sort of how it should be. And the owner that owned the car previously did some repairs. I haven't asked him yet as in what exactly he did, but according to him, he sort of did some repairs, but it seems that the wiring colors and everything is exactly correct and matches up with the actual OEM sort of spec, and it does sort of look like everything is as it should be. So my next idea that I did was took my trusty voltmeter and basically checked the plugs randomly. So turned the power on into the pre-ignition step on the car itself, and then I checked the voltage coming to this pin, which is the same green with white, and also randomly, since I randomly found this, also checked this one, and for both the voltage is basically 0.01 or 0.02 or 3 volts. So basically no power is coming to these items. So I don't know what the problem is, if the actual brain box itself is dead, which could be entirely a possibility, because this is sort of a typical problem for these cars, is that because the brain is actually located here under the cowl, it does have a cover on it, but they say that this can actually happen with water damage. So water seeping into the compartment here can damage these. At least on visual inspection, it doesn't really look like there's any water, you know, that has been stationary. But that doesn't rule out the option, or the possibility at least, that it could be water damage that has sort of fried something in there. It did run. I mean, it still does run pretty okay, other than the few anomalies. But yeah, so I'm not entirely sure if the 12 volts signal is not coming in from the brain box itself, or if there could be some sort of a wire issue somewhere in the loom going through the different parts. So my next idea, as sketchy as it is, I'm thinking about like splicing the or cutting the cable open, sort of dissecting it and measuring if I'm getting 12 volts directly from here, where it is the closest to the brain, and and then see if where basically I have to take the loom apart quite a bit and see where the wire goes, where it sort of splits up, and then figure out where the cut is, where the issue may be. That, at least in my mind, doesn't sound like the easiest jobs in the world, because there's a lot of wires and they go everywhere. But yeah, so I want to try sort of figure out what that situation is, and if I'm not getting 12 volts straight from here, I can be pretty sure that it's the brain box that is sort of gone. Probably something inside, you know, one line or something is dead, in which case it means I have to find a replacement brain, and those aren't exactly something you come by very often, but you can still get them. So yeah, and you won't get one brand new, you'll get one used, and you can just sort of pray and hope that it works. Yep, so that would be the next order of business, and then after this I'm also gonna take off the front bumper and start working on that later on. But first of all, I want to at least hopefully try and make it run again normally, and sort of so yeah, if I figure this out, I can basically test if the gearbox still goes into limp mode. So that is the order of activities for the next unknown amount of hours. So I'll be back once I have some more interesting discoveries to share.